Week one. Here we are, guys. We made it. Let's get into this. All right, man. All right. In the beginning, our first topic are the tools that are in the industry. We're going to go over those tools, and I'm going to give at least one illustration of the use of each of these tools. But as the class goes on, when we get into troubleshooting, most or a lot of those tools you're going to see again as I show you how to remove and replace parts in the system. Okay? But let's talk about your part. I need you guys to understand up front. This is a quick moving class. In 6 months, I'm going to give you everything you need to go out and be a service tech. But I need something from you guys. Typically, learning comes through repetitively going over something. Most of you guys aren't working in the industry currently. Maybe some of you are. So we're doing this on Patreon. You have the videos. You may need to go back and watch them. You need to take some notes, and I'm going to need you to study your notes. Again, I want 100% success ratio, but I can't do it by myself. You guys have to interact. You got to pay attention, and you got to follow the course. And I promise you, I'm going to give you all the information you need. Okay? I'm going to break it down to its lowest common denominator. Understand, this is not brain surgery. As we get into these units, you're going to see a lot of wires, you're going to see a lot of components, and it may look a little scary. But understand, if you get the understanding, then it's not going to scare you anymore. Anything that you don't understand, you don't know, may be a little scary. But this is so easy. As I begin to break it down, you're going to understand. All right? So let's get into the tools that we use within the industry. All right? All right. Let's continue with them tools. I know this is a rather boring part of the class, but I need you guys to stay focused. I'm going to give illustration to how to use them, but I want to give an introduction to all the tools. Again, it's about the repetitiveness. I'll show them to you, then I'll show them to you as I'm working with them, and it'll help you remember the different tools and what they're used for, and also how to use them. All right? All right, this is my Ampro, my field piece, my multimeter. This is one of the tools that I want you guys to definitely get for the class. I want you to be able to see all these different settings within this meter, and I want you to be able to understand what they are. I'm going to go over it. There's basically 4 major settings that we use all the time. But I need you to get one. It'll get you a booklet that goes along with it, and it'll explain each of those features. Okay? This is an awesome tool. We use it to check voltage, whether it be single phase or 3-phase, which is on commercial systems, or if it's single 120 or single 240, I can check all of that with this same meter. I have high voltage, and I got a low voltage setting. I have a high voltage setting. I can check DC current. I don't work on cars, but DC current is from a battery. It checks that as well. I can check temperature. Sometimes, in order to do subcooling or superheat dealing with my Freon, I need this device, which, if I disconnect my leads, switch this to temperature, at that point, I can plug this device in, and now I can clamp that onto my copper. And when I clamp it onto my copper, my field piece will show me the temperature of the Freon in that copper. Right now, it should be showing you the temperature of my blood running through this finger. Okay? Um, some of the different uses for our amp probe, our multimeter, our field piece. So they are made by a multitude of different vendors. You can also use the top of it when you're checking the amps going to your compressor or the amps going to a motor. I just stick one wire in between here, clamp it on, and it set it at amps, and it'll tell me the amp that a particular appliance is drawing at that time. So I definitely want you guys to get an amp probe, a multimeter. I particularly like this fill piece for one of the features. It has a magnetic back, so I can attach it to the unit. I can attach it straight. I can pull this out and lay it across the top, and I don't have to hold it in my hand. So I like the fill piece. You can select whichever multimeter you want to get. Let's move on. All right. This is the second tool that I want to talk about. This is also the second tool that I want you guys to get a set of for the class. We're going to talk about the refrigeration later in the class. I think it's somewhere around the fourth or maybe even the fifth month. But I want you to get a set of gauges. You can pick them up at pawn stores, or you can go to a refrigeration supply store and get a good set, because ultimately you're going to need them. All right. Gauges come prepared for different freons. This particular set deals with the 410A, which is the latest freon that we were using that they just began to ban. It also deals with the R454B. It also deals with the R32. The R454 and the R32 are the newest freons just coming onto the market. So you definitely need a set of gauges that will deal with those. But I actually have two sets of gauges, because the one freon that these left out is R22. R22 has been banned as of 2015. No manufacturer could manufacture any more R22, but there's still a large volume of R22 systems still in existence and still in operation. So you're going to need a set of gauges that deals with R22. You're going to need to be able to deal with R410A, and moving forward, you're going to need the R32. You're also going to need the R454B, okay? But I want you to get a set, so as I begin to illustrate and talk about the temperature and pressure differentials on the different freons, I want you to be able to look at your gauges and get a better understanding of what I'm talking about, okay? These gauges, we use them as auto mechanics use diagnostic tools on your car. I can hook this blue line, which represents my suction, or the thicker copper line, also the one copper line that is insulated. That's going to represent my suction line, which is my low side. I can screw this on at the compressor and get a reading on the Freon on the suction side, which is the low side. This can be removed and attached to the system on the high side. The high side represents the thinner of the two coppers. It also would be the copper that is not insulated. It is the high side, the liquid side of your air conditioning system. And when I hook the two of those to that system in the right format, I can look at the gauges, look at the pressures and temperatures, and tell you a wealth of things about the operation of the system. Now, the yellow line, I would use that either if I were charging the system with Freon, I would hook the yellow line to my actual Freon tank and hook the red and the blue to the system, and then I can open the different sides and let the Freon go in. Or I can use this as a vacuum. Whenever you open a system up, you must vacuum it down, or I may need to recover the Freon out of the system. But we're going to talk about all of that in the class. I'm going to show you the recovery method. I'm going to show you the charging. But I do want you guys to get a set of gauges for the class that you have them. Let's move along. Okay, let's look at the use of our amp probe. Okay, there's, like I say, our amp probe is a multimeter. Okay, one of the things we use it for is to check capacitors. Okay, capacitors, this is a capacitor for an indoor furnace or an indoor air handler. Old school. Today, most of our blower motors on our heat pumps as well as our furnaces are ECM motors, and they have the capacitor built within them. They modulate, they're different from the old, but you're still going to run across a lot of systems that have capacitors on the indoor fan motor. Okay? Now, one of the ways that you can check this capacitor, if you're thinking your capacitor is bad, one of the things that'll happen is your fan motor won't run when there's a call for heat or a call for air. But sometimes if you reach in and you turn the fan motor and it starts running, your capacitor is bad. That's why, because this is basically a start capacitor. It helps the motor get started. So one of the things we can do with our amp probe is we can dial up where it says MFD. That's where I have my arrow pointed at right now. Now, while I'm set, now this for an indoor fan motor is a 10 UF capacitor. Okay? They often will be, you have 3 UF, 5 UF, 10, 15, 12.5, you have a 7, you have a 7.5. It's a multitude of different capacitors. But this, once I set my amp probe, and this is not a metal table, so it's going to be hard to get it to set up. But once I set it at the MFD, if I touch both leads on the capacitor, you should see the number 10 on my amp probe. I'm not looking at it. Is that what we see? Number 10. That tells me this capacitor is producing the 10 UF that it needs in order to start the fan motor. Okay? On an outdoor air conditioner or an outdoor heat pump, you will normally have a dual capacitor. Now, this dual capacitor is a 40/7.5. So the 40 UF will start the compressor. The 7.5 will start the condenser fan motor. So if I want to test this again on the top of it, and it's going to be very hard to see, but there is a C by this prawn that represents common. On this top prawn, there's a word written over top of it that says Hume. That's talking about the pneumatic compressor. And then on the other leg, it'll have the word, I'm hoping you guys can see it, it'll have the word fan written over it. And that's talking about the fan motor. Now, one of the ways you can identify the common will have 4 prongs. If you look, the common has 4 prongs on it. So 4 different things can connect to that common. But the pneumatic only has 3. That's up at the top here. The pneumatic for the compressor only has 3 prongs. Okay? But then on the fan, I'm not looking at it, but experience tells me there should only be 2 prongs on where it says fan. That's how you can identify what connects to what on your dual outdoor capacitor. Now, if I go from what we've said is common with the 4 prongs and pneumatic, Hume, which is the 3 prongs, I told you that this was a 40/7.5 capacitor. So the pneumatic is 40 UF and the fan should read 7.5 UF. So that tells me that capacitor is working. One of the other things that you will find on a failed capacitor, sometimes you'll see the belly, the bottom, is no longer flat. It has swole and it's bellied, it's round. That capacitor isn't any good. Sometimes you'll find a juice running down the side of the capacitor. That capacitor isn't any good, okay? Sometimes you'll come up to an air conditioning unit. You got a call for no AC, and when you arrive, the outdoor fan motor is running, but the compressor didn't come on. A lot of times, the problem is simply the capacitor. While the common to fan is still producing its proper voltage, the common to pneumatic is not. Sometimes neither will work, the fan nor the compressor, and the whole problem is the capacitor. This capacitor costs me about $30. But if I come to your house, it takes me 15 minutes to identify that this is the problem. And it takes me 10 minutes to change it out. So I'll be at your house for 35, 40 minutes. I paid $30 for a capacitor, but I'm going to bill you $390 for replacing that capacitor. I've been at your house less than an hour. Seems like a pretty good tab to me, okay? So that's one of the things that we can do with our multimeter. One of the other things we can do is we turn it up here to what looks like a wavelength. It's got stripes. It looks like it's projecting waves. And what that'll do is it will check continuity, okay? All right, this is my service wrench, okay? On a new air conditioning system, when you purchase it, it will have Freon locked inside of the outdoor condensing unit. This small Allen key, that's basically what it is. It's an Allen key. The small one will open the liquid side of that system once you have totally connected, vacuumed it down, and you're ready to release the Freon from the outdoor unit into the system. The larger Allen key further back would be used on the suction side, which is the low side, which is the thicker of the two coppers, which is the insulated copper. That is my low side. That feeds my evaporator coil. The high side, which is the red, which is the thinner copper, it's non-insulated. That is my liquid side, and that feeds my outdoor condenser. I'm going to repeat these things over and over and over all throughout the class because you need to remember, you need to learn this, and we know it takes repetitively going over. So I'm going to continue to talk about the red is the high side. It's the smaller of the two coppers, and it is the non-insulated. That's the red side, that's the high side, that's the liquid side, that's the thinner of the two coppers. But the suction, that's the low side, that's the blue line, that's the thicker of the two coppers, and that line would always be insulated. As you deal with many splits, it changes, but we'll deal with that later. You just need to remember red, high, blue, low. Red, liquid, blue, suction. Red, thinner of the two coppers, blue, thicker of the two coppers. This is a service tool used to open those lines and release the Freon into the system. I'm going to show you how to use that as the class goes on. For the most part, every tool that I'm introducing you to now, I'm going to show it on multiple occasions throughout the class. I'm going to show it in use so that you truly understand what this service wrench does. Okay? Let's move to the next piece. This is my tubing cutter. Okay? This tubing cutter is what I use to cut my copper, okay? The way it works is an adjustable metal wheel that's sharpened, and you have wheels that turn so that when I put a piece of copper into it, now I can roll the wheel until I hit the copper. I want to keep the copper in the middle of the two wheels at the top, and then I begin to roll it. Now, I can't tighten it too tight in the beginning because I'll crush the copper. So you tighten it a little and you roll it and let it cut. that portion of the copper, then you tighten it a little more and you roll it a little further. And ultimately, it will cut the copper. This is my tubing cutter. And this would help me clear any shavings that fell off of the copper when it was being cut to make sure my copper is clear. Also, sometimes you need a shorter tubing cutter because the long tubing cutter, when you go to spin it, there may be other obstacles that this long body will hit and not allow you to go and make your complete revelation. So you may have to have a small tubing cutter that will go in to tighter, refined areas. And give me a minute, let's get her tightened down. But that'll go into a tighter, refined area and be able to circle and go all the way around the copper. And again, you tighten it slowly, a little bit at a time, until you cut all the way through the copper pipe. Again, if you tighten it too tight, you will bend the copper and get it out of shape. And now you'll have to cut it again because once you take it out of its shape, out of its form, it's no longer useful in our application. So that's our tubing cutters, how we use them and why we use them. Because we have to connect copper from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit in order to move the Freon from one system to the other. This is the avenue, the highway that the Freon travels within, the copper line set that goes from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit. One of the other tools that we use is a 6-in-1 screwdriver. Man, if I could tell you all the times that this has been a lifesaver. It has 6 different functions. Awesome tool. We should all have one. This gives me 3 different functions. This end, now that I've removed this, will work as a nut driver for 5/16 screw heads. Okay? It'll work as a nut driver that it'll fit a screw with a 5/16 head. Okay? This has 2 different ends. It has a small flathead screwdriver and it has a wider flathead screwdriver. So on this end, I have 3 different functions. Now, if I pull it apart and I flip it, now I have 3 additional functions. I have a small head Phillips, I have a large head Phillips, and I have a 1/4-inch nut driver. Well, the 5/16 nut won't fit in there. It's for a 1/4-inch, which is a smaller nut. I'll show you that as we move on. But it's a 6-in-1, awesome tool, must have. Okay? We use it for loosening, tightening, connecting, all within the unit. We need this tool. This is a nut driver that will go from 5/16 to a 3/8 nut. And it's magnetized. That's why all that dirt was strapped on it, so that it will actually hold whatever screw I'm working with. It's magnetized that it won't let it go. And I can stick it in places and get it started. I can do that with the 5/16. If I flip it and go to the 3/8, I have the same functionality within it that is magnetized. But with this nut driver, maybe this shaft is too long to get to where I want to go. Okay, then I can remove it and maybe I want a smaller nut driver in that I can get in a tighter place. Okay, so I like tools that have a multitude of functions that I can use in different applications in different ways. This is a nut driver, different size nuts within our system. And removing pressure switches, glow plugs, flame sensors, rollout switches, we need nut drivers. Sometimes when the manufacturers make these systems, they don't keep us in mind. Some of them screws are so hard to get to, and then you need your mini. Now, you can get these minis. This is a mini. The yellow indicates 5/16. This only works on 5/16 nuts. And if I look deep enough in my bag, I have one of these minis that only feed a 1/4 inch. This end would be red. But they made a mini that does both. This end, red, is a 1/4 inch nut driver. But if I pull it apart, flip it over, now I have a 5/16 nut driver. These are must-have tools. A lot of the nuts that we need to remove in order to replace flame sensors, glow plugs, pressure switches, flame rollout switches, limit switches. Sometimes they're in very awkward positions, and we have to figure out a way to get them out so that we can do our job. Well, throughout the class, we're going to remove some of those flame sensors. We're going to remove flame rollout switches. We're going to remove glow plugs, and I'll show you how to put them back, and I'll show you how to use these tools, okay? This is a tool that we use that is a must-have. It's a leak detector, but it is listed as a gas leak detector. And that indicates it's been sitting for a minute. I hope my battery is still working. And if so, I'll give a brief illustration. Well, I can see it's not beeping, and that tells me the battery has gone dead. But this is a leak detector for gas. It will detect natural gas leaks in a home, coming from a gas furnace, coming from a gas stove, coming from a gas hot water tank. It will detect carbon monoxide that is leaking into the house because our system has a busted heat exchanger. It will detect leaks in our refrigeration system. If it's gas, this device will pick it up. And I think I have another one in my bag. I see the light came on, but it's not beeping. So that tells me the battery is low. Let me show you another one that hopefully has a good battery in it. Let's see. Most of the tools that I have two or maybe three, okay? Because you never know when you get on a job and the battery's dead and you don't have a replacement battery, or you can't find a tool, you left it in a place. But this is a leak detector, and what you want to do is you want to get it to a point where it's beeping kind of like a heartbeat on a consistent level. That is just beep, 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 beep. And if there's a gas leak in the house, now you know our body emits carbon monoxide, correct? Did you hear the change in the tone, the beat? Because it's picking up the carbon monoxide that's coming from my breath. If there was a gas leak in the house, it would do the same. And as I point it and I get closer to the leak, the beat will get louder and louder until it lets me know I'm right on top of that leak. Okay? But you get it to a certain set point and you leave it there with just a heartbeat, and then you look for leaks in our freon, leaks in gas, carbon monoxide leaking into the house. Awesome tool. A service tech is really going to do well to have one of these. All right. It's a gas leak detector. And multiple vendors make them, multiple styles. This is just the one that I purchased, which is the UEI version. The UEI version of this system. All right. Let's move along. This is a temperature sensing gun. It will read temperatures as far as 16 foot away. I don't use it that far. They say, I think, and I have found that in those strange long distances, it loses its accuracy. But it is infrared, and you can hold it as you point it, and it will show the temperature of whatever you point it at. Sometimes I need to know the temperature of the air coming out of my register in the ceiling. But I don't feel like running out to the truck and dragging a 6 foot ladder in. So I can use my infrared thermometer, point it at the grill, squeeze the trigger, and it will register and show me the temperature. Sometimes there are different applications where I need to use this. Sometimes it even helps me in getting my temperature differential in the house from the supply and the return. Awesome tool. I recommend you get a temperature thermal reading device. All right, other tools that we need. You often will be dealing with gas pipe if you have to change out a furnace. And for that, you often will need a crescent wrench. It is a tool that you can adjust to different size nuts and will give you a good, strong, sturdy grip and ensure that you don't strip the nut. We also have a tool on our truck, which is a nitrogen set, a nitrogen tank, and we have our B tank that we use for sweating our copper, and the nitrogen, we pressurize our copper to look for leak. This is an awesome tool for tightening the regulators on those tanks. It is a crescent wrench, and it's adjustable for different size nuts, and it is a must have. Then we have our channel locks. Okay, channel locks come in a variety of sizes. Okay, they are, I use these daily. They are a tool that is very handy, allows me to get into multiple situations and loosen and tighten nuts and bolts in odd situations. And that's why I have multiple sizes. Now, with channel locks, you need to understand how to use them. Okay? So, if I want to turn a nut to the right, to the left, then I am loosening. I want to loosen. Well, I want the bell, the bowl, the head of my my channel lock. I want the head of it on the top if I'm turning to the left. But if I'm turning to the right, if I use it with the head in the same place, it's just gonna strip around and strip my nut. And I'm probably gonna bust my knuckles. So I need to turn it in the proper direction, that the bell, the top, goes in the opposite direction of which way you're turning. So if I'm turning to the right, I want my top on the left. If I'm turning to the left, I want my top on the right. It's important to understand that. And as we go through, I'll illustrate the use of these and try to give you a good memory of how to use this tool. But understand some of it is going to come with practice. Okay? Then we have our pipe wrench. Sometimes, and I was looking, I thought I bought a larger one in. I have pipe wrenches that go from this 9 inch, I have 12 inch, I have 18 inch, I also have 24 inch pipe wrenches. Long, tall, for different applications, nuts that are extremely old, rusted, been on for years, and I need to open it. Sometimes you need pipe wrenches to do that. Most of the time, that's going to be dealing with gas piping. The only time you will really be dealing with gas piping is in a change out of a furnace. Not often in service do you have to deal with the gas piping. But I'm going to teach you how to use this tool. I'm going to show you the different applications that you would use it in and give you an understanding, because I understand you're going to grow. And as you grow, you're going to need a wide variety of tools. This is one of the other tools that is very valuable you need to have, a hand drill. I like the DeWalt. It's multifunctional. It has the ability to act as a hammer drill, and later in the class of tools, I'll show you a hammer drill, tell you what that statement means. But it has different settings, and I can set it to hammer, which will drill in the concrete. But I can set the level of intensity of how much torque I can give. It's also, I like the 20-volt battery. It gives it greater lifespan throughout the day. Once you charge it, it can do a larger variety of tasks. If you have a small 14, 16, you could never use this bit to drill through copper. But with that 20-volt, I can use this drill, and I can drill holes that sometimes I need in order to run my PVC through a wall for my condensate drain. So I use this in order to have that 20-volt so that I have the torque to drill large holes. But I have a multitude of tools that I can put. I can use it with my nut drivers, the short one. I can use it with the long nut driver, okay? I can put drill bits in it, wood bits, metal bits. I use it when I take tool units apart. But you've got to learn how to use it. You have to understand it. New trainees that work with me at Christian Mechanical, when servicing a unit and we needed to take things apart, I would never let them use a drill. They had to use the handheld nut drivers, because if you use the drill and that torque, if you don't know how to use it, you'll strip the screws, and now you can't reattach whatever you were trying to attach in its original position, because you didn't know how to take your finger off the drill in order to get the right torque. So You've got to practice with it, use it, but it's an awesome tool. All right. I like the DeWalt. I like the 20 volt. All right. We often need a sawzall. Sometimes nuts are rusted, they're old, they just won't break with conventional nut drivers or wrenches and sockets. Sometimes I need a sawzall to get that nut out. Sometimes I need to cut my PVC if I'm running a 90 plus gas furnace and I need to run a PVC flue. I need my sawzall because that will help me. I can put a variety of blades in it so I can use it, excuse me, I use it with a metal cutting blade, or I can put a wood cutting blade and use it for a multitude. Again, I like the DeWalt. I use the 20 volt tool so that I have my batteries are interchangeable. I can use this battery on my drill. I can use the battery that's on my drill on this sawzall. So it gives me a great deal of variety. And then I only need one charger. So, of course, with my cordless tools, I have to have a battery charger for my batteries. Now, of course, each tool comes with a charger. Well, if you buy it with a charger, you can get it with or without. All of my tools I bought with a charger. So I have a multitude of these because sometimes they go bad. I also have a cordless grinder, and I'll show that in a later class. But it's 20 volt, it's cordless, use the same charger and the same batteries. The grinder, there are applications where we need it as well. But through the class, I'm going to show you how to use these shoes. I'm going to show you applications where you need the different ones, and I'll actually show you how to use it. I'm going to try to show you everything multiple times because I know most of you don't work in the trade. You're not using this information that I'm giving you on a daily basis. So you're going to need repetitively going over the different facets, the different parameters, and the different uses. And I'm going to try and make sure you get that. Let's move on to some next tools. All right. This right here is also a service tool. It allows me with this to remove Schrader valves. Give me one moment. Let me show you. This is a Schrader valve. It's the same device that's in your tires on your car. And when you put air in your tire in your car, the pump depresses the Schrader valve and lets the air go in. And once the pump lets the Schrader valve lets the air go in, then it closes so that the air can't get out. Well, these are also used in our service ports on our air conditioners because this has a little spring action within it that allows it to open and close. And I'm sure you can't see that. But in my gauge, in my service port, on my outdoor unit, where I hook my gauges, there is a Schrader valve. Sometimes I need to remove that Schrader valve, and that's when I need this tool. But this tool also, if a Schrader valve goes bad on a system that is fully charged with Freon, if I take that Schrader valve out, there's nothing to stop the Freon from leaking. So I can use this particular tool, and when I use it, I can, once I remove the Schrader valve, because I will, can't see, I'll screw this and connect it to my unit. And once I connect that to my unit, at that point, I can pull my Schrader valve back. Then I can close this door. And now my Freon is trapped. It can't leak into the atmosphere. Then I can take this apart and I can take the old Schrader valve that I just took out of the system. I can take it out. Then I can put a new Schrader valve into the system by putting my new Schrader valve in, tightening it back up so my Freon can't leak out. At that point, I can't push it through because my door is closed. But now that that's secured, this is still connected to the unit. I open this, the Freon can only come back to, then I can push, put my new Schrader valve in, and I never lost my charge. It's a valuable tool. Sometimes, 80% of the time when we go to a system that's low on Freon, the Schrader valve was the problem. And the only way to remove that Schrader valve is to recover all the Freon out so you can take the Schrader valve out and not lose the Freon, or to have one of these tools. Very valuable, must have. Schrader valve core stem remover. Okay. These are replacement Schrader valves that I keep on my truck because, as I said, a lot of times the Freon is leaking from the Schrader valve. These handy little tools here are thermostats or thermometers. With them, I can read the temperature in my supply air or my return air. It will tell me the temperature of whatever I put it in. I believe right now, because I'm holding it, you probably see the temperature beginning to change because it's reading the temperature in my hand, okay? Sometimes you need two. Sometimes you need one that you will put in. Okay, another tool with a bad battery. That's whole, that's on off. Okay. Yeah, it came on and then it went right back off, which tells me, unfortunately, the battery in this one is bad. I have replacement batteries on the truck. You just flip it open. There went that battery. Good thing it ain't no good. But flip it open, little battery, put it back, then you have your second thermometer. We need to read and take what we call TD readings, which is a temperature differential between the supply air coming off of the unit and the return air going into the unit. And for that, we have to have thermometers. They assist us sometime in the charging of the system, and they help tell us what the performance of the system is. I particularly like this UEI brand because it's magnetic. And then I can attach it to the side of the unit. I can attach it to a grill in the air. I can attach it in different locations because of the magnet, and that's very useful. So this is the one that I particularly prefer. This is definitely a must-have, guys. Okay? A lot of the situations we go into, mechanical rooms often do not have lights in them. A lot of times they do, most of the time they don't. You have to be able to see what you're working on. Sometimes in the back of the unit, there are screws under the squirrel cage, and sometimes you just need some help seeing those things. I love this particular light because it gives me a multitude of functions. I can adjust the brightness, the band of it, how wide it is. And what I really like is the fact that I can put it on my head, and that means it looks wherever I look. So it is just an awesome tool to have. Must have them. You can get them at Home Depot or you can get them at your service providers. Normally, you can get a better deal at Home Depot. But just let you know, this particular one cost me $46. They're not very inexpensive, but it's rechargeable with the same cord that charges my battery, my phone. So I can recharge it over and over and over again. I've had this particular one for more than a year. It was well worth its cost. And I use it as I'm getting older. Eyes aren't as good as they used to be. I use it every day. It's a must have. This, sometimes you lose screws on the job, you drop screws back behind things. So, what better than, ha 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 ha, I've had it for a minute, been sitting around, but it's a telescopic magnet that allows me to reach into areas and pick things up that I lost, that I dropped. It's a nice tool to have, gives you some assistance when you lose things, drop things down in the units. Sometimes that particular screw that isn't like any other screw that you have in your bag and you drop it in a tight area, this will come in handy in order to go down and pick that screw up. Just a little magnet. Of course, our box cutter. We use it all the time, day after day. I have 5 or 6 of them in different bags, different types. They make them now where this one, you've got to take this screw out, open it up to change the blade. They have them today. I don't have one here for illustration where the blade can just be taken out and put back without opening it up. But we often need box cutters for a multitude of reasons in the field. This is a swoosh kit. It's used to blow out condensate drain leaks. Sometimes the condensate drain line just gets full of trash and gook that accumulated in the unit. It clogs the line up, causes the system to leak water, flood the basement, and often what we use is a swoosh kit. The way it works is you push this into the PVC. Here's a coupling which is bigger than the actual PVC, so this kind of goes in. But you put it into the PVC, and then when you push the air out, it will blow whatever clog is in the unit. The air comes from little nitrogen cartridges that go inside. That one's been used, okay? Just put the cartridge in, tighten it up, and then you're ready to go again. Sometimes you may have to swoosh a line more than once in order to get it clear. But, well, ain't that something? But that's quite a bit of air pressure inside a 3/4 inch PVC condensate drain. That typically will blow that line out and clear it and free the drain up. And those cartridges probably cost me about $25 for a box of 12. Because you have a condensate drain leak and I come in your home and I swoosh it and clear it out, you owe me $135. Took me 15 minutes. Swoosh kit clears condensate drain leaks. All right? Gotta have it.